Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session, Transparency, Balance, and Collaboration in the State of Oregon, produced by Government Technologies in cooperation with CA Technologies. My name is Mary Lou Prevost, Vice President of CA Technologies State and Local Government Vertical, and I'll be your host and moderator for this session. Just a few announcements before we begin. This webcast is designed to be interactive, and you can participate in the Q&A with us by asking questions at any time during the presentation. You'll just need to type in your question into the Q&A box area on the lower left side of your console and click Submit. If you'd like to download a PDF of the slides for this presentation, you can do so by clicking the Slides widget at the bottom of the console. Also, during today's webinar, you'll be able to connect to your peers via LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook. Just use the GT Live to connect with your peers across Government Technology Platform and Twitter. Lastly, the recorded session will be available to all registrants within 48 hours, and you can use the recorded sessions for your reference or feel free to pass along to colleagues. At this time, we recommend you disable any pop-up blockers, and if you're experiencing any media player issues, just visit the help guide at the bottom by clicking Help. Now, a brief introduction to today's session. The way people interact with government is going through a significant shift. Applications have become the central focus of how business is transacted. To thrive in the application-driven economy, government is reinventing the way it engages with the public through technology. IT governance is a critical step in that transformation of the way government services are delivered in a more efficient, secure, and cost-effective manner to match the way the public prefers to interact. Today's session is focused on the state of Oregon. Here is some of the background on the state of Oregon's path to establishing IT governance. During the summer of 2014, the State of Oregon Department of Administrative Services Chief Information Office started an initiative to seek establishing a statewide solution for enterprise project portfolio management software to provide visibility into the current state of IT initiatives, resources, and spend through a centralized collection of data from multiple state agencies. The purpose of the State of Oregon's initiative was to drive collaboration and transparency. The Chief Information Office is working closely with the Legislative Fiscal Office to manage projects of all sizes through their recently implemented Stagegate Process, and will be positioned so that every agency in the State of Oregon can use it. The Enterprise Project Portfolio Management Solution is required to provide visibility for better understanding of resource supply versus project and operational demand in the IT project environments within the state government, as well as highlighting conditions requiring executive action, priority setting, and informed decision-making. The state will use the solution to solve immediate functional needs to support a successive roadmap toward improving project portfolio management maturity within all state agencies. CA Project Portfolio Management will function as an umbrella portfolio system for statewide enterprise project portfolio management supporting multiple agencies and PPM environments, and the varying models of IT governance, portfolio management and project management, operational demand management employed within each agency. Information from each state agency is to roll up into a state CIO executive dashboard for viewing, analysis, and reporting. And there's really no one better to talk about this than the State of Oregon's CIO, Mr. Alex Pettit. A little background on Alex. He was appointed on January 6, 2014, and now serves at the pleasure of Governor Brown. Along with his responsibilities as state CIO, he currently acts as the interim CIO for Cover Oregon. Prior to joining the State of Oregon, he was appointed as the first Chief Information Officer in the state of Oklahoma, April 2010, by Governor Brand Henry, and was reappointed by Governor Mary Fallin in January 2011. He served as the Cabinet Secretary of Information Technology and Telecommunications until July 1st of 2013. Mr. Pettit joined Brown University in 2009 as an independent consultant responsible for project management and planning, coordinating, and execution of rapid development of a fully functional and tested disaster recovery plan and coordination of the renovation of Brown University's Seoul data center. We worked with public, private organizations regarding technology management activities, including consolidation, governance, and IT practices. Some of these organizations include the National Association of Chief Information Officers, the Disaster Recovery Institute International, the International City Managers Association, the Texas City Managers Association, and Society of Information Management, and the American Public Institute of Technology Professionals. He is a published author on IT leadership in studies in e-government, Government Technology Magazine, Texas Technology Magazine, and the Journal for Enterprise Architecture, and the SIM Guide to Enterprise Architecture. So he's well-versed, and with that, I'll let you take it away, Alex.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to present here to the folks here, and I guess I'll just get her started with just kind of an overview. I like this slide because one of the things that we have here in Oregon that we're blessed with that was a big change from the way it was in Oklahoma is geography. So I just haven't been able to get enough opportunities yet to get out in the year that I've been here, but certainly this view, panoramic view, would look a lot different in Oklahoma than it does in Oregon here. So that's the reason I like to start with this slide. So, and this is a slide that kind of a nice visual. So the entire presentation can be wrapped up in a single slide, and this is really it. So our problem is too many projects, too many things going on, and just simply enough horsepower or manpower or whatever you want to call it to pull the thing. So as you can see and although this is obviously a humorous way of looking at it, but fundamentally our problem or our issue is we just don't have the capacity. It's really a capacity problem. When I was interviewed for this job and subsequently had discussions with leaders from the Oregon House and Senate on the Joint Legislative Audits and IT Committee, they were asking me about the reason that Oklahoma did what it did on the health exchange and why Oregon had done its selection, and they were asking me different ways that it could have been accomplished. And my response was that to them, which might have seemed a little cheeky at the time, but I told them that amateurs argue strategy and professionals argue capacity. And as this slide clearly illustrates, it's really, there is no strategy that would have pulled this off. It's ultimately a capacity problem here. And so if you don't have the capacity to do what's being asked of you, you've got to figure out how to increase your capacity. And the way to do that, really, what I've found in the past and what we're pursuing here is through the implementation of a governance process. So, all right, so there's three different aspects, if you will, to high-level aspects that as a combination of three aspects to IT governance: governance mechanisms, decision domains, and approaches to decision-making. So mechanisms will answer questions such as who will make these decisions and how will these decisions be made. Approaches to decision-making are what is the process for monitoring the results, and decision domains, what decisions must be made, and to a great degree, who will make those decisions. So those three aspects really are what drive IT governance. And it's important to note that, and I think it's an important thing to note because when we're talking about how to improve things in IT, a lot of times we talk about the strategies of things to get done and not really those things that address capacities. Those are the things that really drive capacity issues around IT and IT process. So you have here a rather busy slide that shows the current state and the future, the vision for the future of what we're trying to do with the governance model. So when I came here, there was no centralized IT governance model for aligning service delivery or activities. Action was pending to empower and still is pending to empower the CIO to coordinate the IT expenditures, services, and resources. That's House Bill 3099. Multiple agency governance models to align individual agency business objectives with IT. Limited cost and resource sharing and parochial agency view, optimizing agency activities and coordination. our goal for the future is architected approach to align IT expenditures and services to optimize costs, multi-layered governance model that approves, monitors, and coordinates activities and service delivery, provide for a better return on utilizing the IT investments, and monitoring architecture, project, and processes to increase business value, risk, and reduce risk, and make IT differences that make a difference. Kind of a play on Nicholas Carr, where he wrote in 2004 that IT doesn't make a difference. So there are some aspects of IT that don't make a difference, and the utility services that are really just about cost and availability, but there are still several IT services that truly make a difference. So really trying to change our focus off of those utility services and onto those aspects that truly make a difference. And to do that, we've got a blueprint. Transition the state's fragmented IT governance model to a phased implementation using the ELT Enterprise Leadership Team model for governance. That's something that we've embraced here in Oregon. Focus on the immediate opportunities with proposed legislative and changes, and integrate the existing initiative for statewide portfolio and project management to provide the shared service into the IT governance transition. Really to bring the transparency and the understanding as to what it is we're doing and the prioritization we're using. So one of the early things that we had, that I had to give a lot of attention to was, what was it that we do exactly here? We had separated IT service delivery from IT policy, and that wasn't a concept that's well understood by folks. And so going back to my ITIL roots, you've got consult, design, build, and run. Those are the four things basically that we do in ITIL. So with the strategic, what we call our strategic technology officers, they've got that blue box there that's overlapping the consult and the design piece, and their job or their goal really is to help the agencies identify and articulate what it is what is the business process we're trying to address, and what is the proper design or architecture that would help to do that. Overlapping that is another group that reports to me, and we call this the Stagegate Process, is the life cycle system. We'll talk about that here in a bit. But really it's implemented by the what we call the IT analysts, the folks that are my ITIP analysts, Information Technology Investment Portfolio Group. And their focus is really on is the design really is it fulfilled completely, and are activities that are being done, are they being done performance to plan measurement? So are we really controlling the performance to plan? So that's really the two aspects, if you will, to the governance process. You got, again, the blue box is the consultant design focus primarily. The ITIP, the oversight, if you will, IT oversight is on performance to plan. You know, the completion of the plan to a sufficient level, and then the performance of that plan. All right. So then you get into another busy slide here, and we've got and this kind of lays out, if you will, by layer or by group what it is we do. So you got the governor at the top. You've got the enterprise leadership team that's made out of all the agency directors, and we get together every 2 weeks to discuss things that are going on and priorities that we have and what have you. And one of the big things is around IT and IT governance. There's a subcommittee to them that's the Enterprise IT Governance Steering Committee. They get into the weeds a little more of the specifics, but there are things that need to be addressed at the leadership team. So they'll have a recommendation at IT Governance Steering Committee that will be forwarded to the leadership team for approval. The state of Oregon is really broken into 6 different sectors or groupings, if you will: public safety, human services, healthy environment, transportation, economic development, education, and administration. So that's not unusual for agencies. The state of Oklahoma was similarly configured. In Oklahoma, we had what were called business segment directors, BSDs. Here in Oregon, we call them strategic technology officers, but they perform a very similar role, which is really advising the agencies as to articulating what that plan is, the consulting component as well as the design component, and then doing that handoff to the oversight group for overseeing the build process. And that's really the balance there between the two. I'm not going to read through all the things here, but this is articulating the domains of responsibility, if you will, for the different groups. ELT and the Enterprise IT Governance Group, the Office of State CIO, and then the agency CIOs. So that was a helpful thing for us. That was one of the things we did early on. Another foundational piece here, if you like, is the agency is really how we articulate or how we kind of present our governance model. So at the bottom of the pyramid are those things there that are enterprise utility services. And in Oklahoma, I had the pyramid going the other way. We do it this way to try to, even though there is a lot of enterprise utility services that are provided, those are the things that Carr says the differences don't make a difference. So those are like telephone, for instance. Dial tone is dial tone is dial tone. What matters is that when you pick up the phone, you get dial tone and the price that you pay for that dial tone. Those are the differentiating factors. So much like electric power, there's a lot of IT services, whether it be storage or compute or in more and more cases, security base or hygienic base level security, network connectivity, a ping is a ping is a ping, all of those kind of things where the differences don't make a difference. Unless you do a trace route, you really don't know how you're getting to Google. All you care about is that when you type google.com, that it comes up and it comes up fast. That's your level of service. That's what you understand, that the bill that comes for you is acceptable. So those are the enterprise utility services. Those are managed by the state CIO and the customer utility board there at the bottom. That's what we call our Enterprise Technology Services Group, or ETS. And those are the uniform services. We've identified about 19 of them that are utility services that all agencies of the state will subscribe to one provider for. The shared services are really at the next level. That's, again, where those shared business segment directors or strategic technology officers, or however we want to call them, get into play. And what they do is identify for things like public safety. There may be in public safety a case should be a case should be a case. So it doesn't matter if the Oregon State Police pick up a person and they go to the Bureau of Narcotics, or they go into the Attorney General's office, or they go through the corrections, or they go through pardon and parole. However that process is, instead of re-entering the information repetitively, the idea is that we would be able to have a shared case management system for public safety, and that all agencies within the 14 or so agencies in public safety would be able to leverage each other's work as the case progresses through from group to group. And then finally are those things that are unique agency functions. Those things are those things that are bespoke solutions to the agencies. Those are the things that really, that the differences make a difference, that we're doing this piece of IT specifically to enable a discrete process or function that an agency does. So licensing for the accountants board, or child support, TANF for Oregon Health Authority, or whatever. We're trying to separate out the not Health Authority, the Department of Human Services. We try to separate out for each of the groups what it is those unique agency functions are. And the reason that's the largest part is because that's where we'd like to see the greatest amount of investment being made, or in those places where things make a difference. So that's really why that's constructed that way. Again, those agency governance committees are the ones that manage those agency functions. And then across all three domains along the right side there, you see the Enterprise IT Portfolio Management Solution, and we'll be getting into that in just a second here. So pushing forward, the next piece, another busy slide, is the yellow piece that I wanted to highlight. This is back from a memo I sent out in February of 2014. The governor had asked me to gather information of all IT projects currently underway or being planned at each state agency within a week. So when I got to the state of Oregon, we had 18 projects that were under oversight. So our primary duty was oversight of projects that were in flight. we had 18 projects that had been identified, and that was what we did. And I had spoken to the governor and others and said that just didn't make sense. There was simply no possible way that we had only 18 projects that were in a state this size that were being that should be in flight. So the response to this, as you can see, was we went from 18 to actually 81, and we cut that down. Some of them were in very embryonic stages, so 70 projects. So we went from 18 projects to 70 projects of a value of about a little over $1 billion. So that was a big change to us. You know, a big change in our world there was being able to just get our arms around what it was what was the total universe of projects that were either active, planned, placed on hold, or closed, or were operational initiatives or activities. So as you can see, there were 70 of those of various estimated investment amounts. And this was a significant increase in how we and indicated that we had quite a bit of gap between what we understood the world to be and what it was. So this drove a policy and legislative direction. The budget instructions were changed. The IT-related budget instructions were changed. The investment review and approval policy was changed. The oversight and quality assurance policy requirements were changed. We asked for independent oversight now. That prior to my being here, oversight was contracted by the agencies directly, and the quality assurance vendor worked directly for the agency. Now they work for the Office of the State CIO, and it's a pass-through to the agency. House Bill 4122 was passed in the 2014 session, again requiring preliminary QA services and an ongoing quality management services program, and other statutory obligations were introduced. So I want to go on now to the slide with the Stagegate oversight process. This is really our systems development life cycle. And we implemented this before we ended up going out and selecting a tool. And so we came up with our process, we defined our process, and then we went through and evaluated tools for how to bring this process to life. So our Stagegate process is in essence our SDLC. And as you can see, there's really just 4 stages it goes through. You have your origination and initiation stages there at the front, going back to PMBOK a little bit here. And then you've got a planning, and then there's an endorsement. And when they come to endorsement, prior to 2014, the way this was done is an agency would have an idea for a project, say the longitudinal data system for the Oregon Education Department. So they came forward with a request for $10 million to do the longitudinal data system. Well, one of the things that I'd asked for is that be changed, and that they come forward with just we approve just that first stage. So they come to that first stage, they came for approval, and we approved $250,000 for them to go back and develop a business case and get what we call Information Resource Requirement Approval, or IRR approval. So we sent them back, we gave them a dollop of money, and we said, okay, this is what you got. So you got to do the planning piece. So they had to do all those pieces under planning: the project plan, the communications plan, the change management plan, development of the business case, the detailed project plan, and these are all artifacts or elements that may or may not be required as part of that planning process. So we asked them to go through that, and then when they come back, they're supposed to come back here in a couple of months for the next stage endorsement. Then we'll give them another dollop of money to do what's called a detail plan, to go through a detailed project plan. And then after that, they'll bring that back for an endorsement, and then they can go into execution. That execution's a racetrack, so they'll go through that as often as they need to, and a lot of it depends upon what kind of process they're going to do with development. Are they going to do if this is a software development project, it may be RUP or Agile or Waterfall. So depending upon what it is, as they go through this racetrack, they'll go through and they'll identify different there'll be different stages that they may have to go through repetitively to get the next dollop of funding and the next dollop of funding until they get through the closeout. That's that monitoring piece. That's that performance to plan that I talked about that the ITIP analysts were doing. So on this slide, the pink ones there, or I guess I call it pink, those first four, those are done by the strategic technology officers. And then kind of when we get into the business case and the detail plan, that starts being picked up by the ITIP analysts. So that's the design to build process, if that makes sense. Then we go to closeout after that. All right. Now here I've laid out with it in real time. So we had to deal with the active projects. What you're seeing here is in active projects. Above there is absolute time, and then the stage gate itself, the systems development life cycle, is really a relative time type construct. So to take the existing 70 or so projects, we had to fit them in somewhere along this scenario one, this active project. We had to fit them in where they were in the stage gate process. So that was a manual process of just seeing where they were. Were they still in concept? Were they in planning? Were they in execution? And figuring out where they should go and what artifacts they had to go back and redo or remake or recreate in order to continue forward through the stage gate process. In many cases, in many projects, they did not have any of these artifacts developed. The next one I have here is the third scenario, which is the one that we're doing now, as far as saying, okay, so for projects that are proposed during this biennium, for this 2015 biennium, so this is across the top is absolute time, so you got March there starting. Any project will start this planning process and then work its way through the stage gate as we have defined it, and this is how projects are going to be approved and funded here for newly proposed projects in this cycle. So those were really, and then there was another one scenario we did, but I didn't bore you with that because it's too academic. But basically, once you come up with your process, you have to figure out how you're going to deal with ones that didn't go through the process that are in flight, and how you're going to deal with ones that are, how everything from here going forward is going to work. And so that's what these two slides really illustrate, where this is how we were going to go through and do this. All right. So a very simple model here. You got, again, your high-level plan, you got your detailed business case, you got your detailed plan, and you got execution. That's really the four high-level pieces to the process. All right. So, and this is as of the end of the year. This is the projects that had pre-stage one endorsement that were either ones we inherited or ones that, as I say, are coming into this biennium. And as you can see, there's quite a few of them here for coming into the biennium. I'm not going to read them off here. The HR system is interesting. We're implementing a human resources information system in the state of Oregon to replace our existing HRIS systems. We have something on we have several HRIS systems with shadow systems out there, so we're going to consolidate all those into a single solution here. So we're working on that, and that was in the pre-stage endorsement phase. Bunch of other ones here. I won't go through the detail of them. The next one shows which projects have passed the stage one endorsement. The MMIS, the DHS's modernization project for Medicaid information services had received a stage one endorsement there. The next one is the projects with stage two endorsement. Things like the data management consolidation for us was one of the ones. The call center for employment, MMIS for DR, FirstNet preparation, that used to be transportation, now it belongs to the Department of Administrative Services. So that one's one that reports to me now. And then the projects with stage three endorsement are listed here. Software upgrades for state radio project there, Medicaid information management system, EDI and health. So quite a few projects there with stage three approval, and then they've gone into execution. There was only one project with stage 4 that completed their execution, so the financial management phase 1 for transportation. And then we have a few projects that were on hold there, the BI for DCBS, child welfare, payroll reporting for employment, modernization, and UI connectivity for employment. So that was really, and this is kind of a look at how a manual process that I'd used in a previous life to track projects, and this is sort of how we track the projects without the tool for that we brought in for with Computer Associates there. So as we go through and identify first year, second year, third year, where the projects fall, how they're, what stage they're in, what domain they reside in, what governance domain do they reside in, and as we go forward in time, kind of a radar chart to track them and what have you. I guess the thing that's very important to note is what we did first is we came up with our process. We evaluated tools that were available out there in the industry. We selected a tool, and now we're in the process of implementing it. And one of the nice things about doing it that way, not only did it help us to develop a process internally that made sense for and communicate it in a way that made sense to both the business and the IT community, but it also allows us to, it brought it to the attention of everyone that really to do this as a manual process. And as you saw my slides for where I am on stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 projects, and trying to keep that up to date and making that available to everyone's a very manual process. Our expectation is that with the PPM tool, we're going to be able to bring that to, that anyone at any time can go out and see not only what project is in which phase, but also be able to see the associated artifacts with that project, either the business case or the functional requirements traceability matrix or whatever it is that we required as part of that project development. Those artifacts will be available and attached to the different programs as they work their way through the systems development life cycle. So that's really the end of my slide deck there. I guess I turn this back over now to Mary Lou. So
thank you very much, Alex. That was great. Very detailed. I think that gives people an idea of the groundwork that has to be laid to do this type of a project successfully. Sometimes that is not always addressed. So it's fantastic. You guys did your homework before embarking upon a project like this. So excellent.
Well, thank you. Like I say, it was important to, it's like a lot of things in life, very often we wait for the right tool to come along to do something, but it's important to go through, and it's as you said, there's a lot of groundwork that needed to be done to get us into the situation where we were really ready to execute with a tool, like figuring out just what all projects were, going from 18 to 81 was quite a shock to us. So,
yeah, that's significant. That's significant. So we're going to take a few questions from the audience. So feel free to log your questions on. One quick question I'll ask is, what do you see as one of your largest challenges in this project?
Well, you mean past or future?
Well, let's look forward. How about future?
All right. I think that the biggest thing that we've got going into this is really going through and making sure that we do a good job of clearly articulating in the process what it is in the tool, setting up the tool. That's really what we're doing right now with Computer Associates, is setting up the tool specifically around the gates and the artifacts so that the tool mirrors what it is our process is. And that's really taking our bandwidth right now, is getting that all set up. And then after we've got that working for ourselves, and we're working with our own group internally as well as with the Department of Revenue, of getting that pushed out then to the community and having all of those bespoke applications or initiatives going on that they start reporting those into the tool and keeping the tool updated as they go forward. And if they fail to, then that would prevent their a lot of times we tend to be toothpaste IT people, like a tube of toothpaste. You can hold it upside down and you can take the cap off and shake it, and you can run it under hot water, but you can't get anything out of it till you put the pressure on. So just like with a tube of toothpaste, until we get to the stage gate and you tell them, all right, well, we're not gonna endorse your project to move forward for the next dollop of funding, then all of a sudden we're going to see a whole lot of activity around getting their artifacts up to date and getting their things put in for that are required to review. Well, then we're under the gun then our folks are under the gun to review those and approve them. So really trying to get the discipline in place that people follow the process and keep the thing updated without waiting to the very end when everybody's under pressure to fund something to either approve it or not and just make it more of a burden than it is really a tool, if that makes sense.
Yeah, getting your staff to support and getting their buy-in is always a challenge in these types of projects. What approach are you taking, to get your team to input the data and get them on board with your vision?
Well, my team is easy. It's really going to be getting the rest of them to do it. And like I say, the thing that we haven't done yet, we're not mature enough yet to do, but we need to evolve to it, is where we have cutoffs far enough in advance to funding that's really what's going to motivate them, is when we tell them, when agencies learn that they can't get something, they can't submit their artifacts on the day before they're going before the Ways and Means Committee for approval for funding. That's one of those things we haven't made it yet. So when we evolve to that point to where we're able to really provide agencies with enough lead time, we say, look, this is your deadline. This is when you have to get it done by. And if you don't, then it's not going to even be heard by Ways and Means for approval of the funding. Only then do I really feel like we made progress. Right now, we're still very early in an embryonic stage, and having a manual process, primarily a manual process, makes it extraordinarily difficult for us to track that. So, we're still, as things get done well, you get the excuse, well, I turned that in, or I thought I turned that in, or I didn't hear back from you in a timely way, or whatever. When we have the tool up and functional, that'll eliminate a lot of those problems.
Now, I will say your project is something at the top of the list of programs that many states would like to complete. A question that is often asked, how did you get this approved and funded?
Oh, well, that one, it really isn't that hard. It was both for the purpose of getting transparency in place, but as I said before, when I came here, we had, there were 18 projects in flight, 18 IT projects in flight. Well, Oregon is bigger than the state of Oklahoma. In Oklahoma, we had more than 50 major IT projects in flight. So it was obvious that there was something wrong with how we were doing it, and it was clear that we didn't have everything identified. So that was why I sent out that email to everyone asking them that, to come clean with their stuff, that there be kind of an amnesty, if you will, and just tell us what you're working on, and we'll forgive you, and we'll figure out how to get it into the process and go forward. And it was very important to do that, and that became and doing the true up the one time, that was very helpful. But that a true up doesn't change your culture. If you have parking scaffers, you can have people that, you can have amnesty day when all of your back parking tickets will be forgiven, and you can pay, some amount on the dollar for it, or not have to pay the penalties or the interest or whatever, and that's great. That cleans it up. But unless you do something to change the culture, we will end up exactly where we were before. We're going to end up with, a handful of projects we're tracking, and the majority of them that are out there, and we don't even know about them.